God, man, we need help.
Do we? Who should we ask?
I know just the man. Jeffrey Combs.
You mean Jeremy Coon?
Jeremy Coon, yeah. Don't mess me up with that, because that's...
Every time we were talking about any of the movies involving Jeffrey Combs over the past few days, we would always say Jeremy Coons.
Yeah.
Props to anyone that gets that reference, because that's really reaching into the depths of cinematic knowledge.
Nonsense.
But this is kind of a double header. We're moving into one of the stars of the Lovecraft genre. Jeffrey Combs, we have a theory about him.
Yeah, a little.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the man, the myth, the legend, our savior, perhaps.
Maybe, hopefully.
And, then we're going to talk about the first of his films,
right?
That we're going to be reviewing, From Beyond. So now Jeffrey Combs, we were kind of thinking, the mid-'80s was filled with Lovecraftian horror.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And he seemed to have a finger in a lot of it.
Yeah, it seems like anything that was Lovecraft-based and halfway decent, he was in.
Yeah.
It seems.
Some part of me, believes that it's because he's a quality actor.
Yeah.
Because he is.
He is.
But for him to hit these so consistently, what a strange subgenre for an actor to choose to be a part of.
And it got us to thinking that it could be maybe he actually owns some kind of rights.
Some rights, or has some percentage,
or some
production credit or something like that.
Yeah, or some kind of permission from some estate somewhere to
possibly
be the guy.
But that's kind of neither here nor there. What we're treated with is a young, very spry, very agile.
You never
Jeffrey
see a guy
Combs.
take a flight of stairs like this.
No, it's like the four-corner spiral staircases. He's going from landing to landing and landing like a cat.
Yeah.
But anyone that hasn't seen From Beyond,
it's kind of it's a little rarer in my estimation for a horror movie, because no one really talks about it. No one really remembers it that much.
When you hear about anything to do with H.P. Lovecraft, his films are front and center, but From Beyond is almost never heard of. I had a recommendation to watch this movie on Twitter, and I'd never heard of it before either.
Yeah.
But after viewing, there is so much going on in this film that is doing so many great things all at the same time. We needed to talk about this movie.
Yeah. It's the basic premise of the story is, once upon a time there were two scientists that live in a house.
Yeah.
One of them was a pervert, and the other one was
a glorious pervert.
A glorious pervert. You never seen chest hair on a man like this before. It's like he shaved everything but his pecs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyways, he's a little off the wall, and his assistant is Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, young up-and-comer, fresh out of Miskatonic University, and
they're working on a theory because
the resonance machine.
Yeah, the resonator, the Pretorius
resonator.
And why was this thing built? Well, it was because the pervert scientist, he was a pervert. He wanted to experience more sensual pleasures, and what this machine did.
Yeah, 5 senses wasn't enough for this man.
It's not enough for this.
He wanted one more.
Sexual beast of a man.
Yeah,
and what it does is it stimulated the pineal gland in your brain, which they speculate is some kind of additional sensory organ.
Sort of. It's kind of like the gland that deals with detecting like pheromones and perception that you wouldn't consider like scent or smell.
Something that can really give you a sexual edge.
Yeah, and boy, howdy does it.
Does it?
This guy is just, he's right in the thick of it. You see his cave of lust, the sexnasium, and you get a good glimpse at what this pervert really needs to push the pace.
Yeah, so
innovating on a scientific level and metaphysical and spatial relativity level.
Yeah, so they fire up the machine, things go wrong.
Yep.
Dr. Pretorius ends up with his head twisted off
very cleanly.
And
Jeffrey Combs has to flee the scene, and he gets arrested and thrown into an asylum. And there's a young the doctors really don't know what to make of this guy
Mhm.
because he's talking about certain things that usual schizophrenic cases and mental patients don't
Yeah.
talk about.
But there's some oddities to back it up because they see after a CAT scan there is a part of his brain that is much bigger than should be. The pineal gland. It appears to be growing.
It's growing, and there might be something to what this guy's saying. He's talking about seeing creatures in alternate dimensions, and they're existing and swimming around us in the air. And the only way we can see them is by using the resonator. And once you use it, your gland is stimulated, and you still kind of see things. And he doesn't want to go back, but a young maverick psychologist has this great plan to reactivate the resonator.
So enter Bubba.
Yeah, Bubba, one of the best, I guess, muscles we've seen in a movie like this. A guy that was just kind of looking for a good time, you know.
Yeah, well, he was a cop. He was there. The psychologist is trying to prove Jeffrey isn't crazy, and let's fire up the machine. And here's my muscle. And they get back to the house, and they go forward with the plan, and that's when things start getting a little kind of crazy.
Yeah, the first taste of the interdimensional, I guess the rift where it all crosses together. Bubba gets bit in the arm. People are starting to get their glands enlarged, and they're starting to feel the sexual urges.
Yeah. Except for Bubba.
Except for Bubba, who's I think it's mainly because he's just so filled with testosterone as it is. A little more doesn't.
Welcome to my level.
Yeah, welcome to former NFL player level.
He used to be a mental patient for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, mental patient. We're all crazy.
All crazy, yeah.
But they can't seem to convince this new doctor to not mess around with us, even after seeing these crazy things and experiencing all these the massive headaches and the kind of. You can't get a good night's sleep, and you're waking up, and you're always thinking about that next dose of the resonator's energy, and man, it all goes to hell, and it goes to hell very, very quickly, but there's some very cool parts to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about this movie because when I first sat down to watch it, I'm not sure if this movie came out after the more famous and well-known Reanimator. I think it came out after.
I think it came out after, which is kind of odd because
this movie looks very has a low-budget look to it, but it so consistently beats its budget. I think
it had a true imaginary or visionary special effects team. The things they did, we were watching the movie, and
it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Some of the things, how it's done, but it's great to see that they pulled it off with such flair and style that it's convincing. It's creepy.
Yes. Like basically, what happens when your pineal gland gets stimulated and it starts growing, and it grows right up the front of your forehead and kind of wiggles around.
Yeah, like a tentacle proboscis thing.
Yeah.
And
while that's wiggling around, you're not really in control of yourself. It's got control of you.
Yeah, it's as if the gland has dominated the rest of the functions of the brain.
Yeah.
So it gets Bubba in a hard situation dealing with these two horny scientists and the pervert from beyond.
Who didn't die? He was killed in like the opening scene.
Yeah.
He just transcended to another dimension, because I guess that's what happens when you die.
Well, when you die in Lovecraft,
When you die in Lovecraft, it's not really dying, I guess.
No, there's always a chance you can come back for a surprise cameo later in the movie, and he does in one of the coolest monsters I'd seen in a long time in a horror movie. Like, people always talk up The Thing. I like this thing better than The Thing. There's a sentence that's kind of crazy.
I like this thing better than The Thing.
The thing about this is no. But no, very visionary special effects team's great creature effect,
Mhm.
and the pervert gets his due. He's just this greasy, oily mass of flesh, and he has good shape shifting abilities, and
Mhm.
it all highlights in the final act where Crawford Tillinghast, Jeffrey Combs, goes head to head with his old mentor,
Uh-huh.
and
They're kind of in possession of the same fleshy mound.
Yeah.
You have Dr. Edward, the villain, trying to kill a girl, basically, and Crawford Tillinghast also inhabiting the same body, kind of fighting it out for control.
yeah,
you know?
tearing itself apart.
Tearing itself apart. It was actually really good effects in this movie. Like it boils down to that this creature is fighting itself so hard. It's got two heads, and they're just
fighting at each other.
They're just biting at each other. They're just skulls.
It's got
you know?
worm arms with suckers on them, and
Yeah.
it's ripping parts of bodies off.
And those little tentacles are just going like crazy, and
Yeah.
they get bitten off and stuff. Like,
Oh.
that was disgusting. There's a lot of disgusting stuff in this movie.
Yeah,
It's
stuff
like,
that, even though you don't have an antenna proboscis, when you see
And
that
just
get
hurt.
chopped, ugh.
Yikes.
That's the cringe moment.
Yeah.
And
I think that's actually a good sign for this movie, is that we've seen a lot of movies,
oh yeah,
and very little actually gets a visceral reaction from me.
yeah. At this point, like with as many movies as we've seen and the variety that we've seen, it takes a lot to get a reaction.
Oh, maybe it just takes the right thing. I don't know.
Maybe we have to. This is kind of our place where we should live. There's stuff here. It's a great little film, and another shout out, as the kids would say. I would like to mention Crampton, Barbara Crampton.
Oh yes, Barbara Crampton.
She was, in my mind, the star. I love Bubba. Don't get me wrong,
I love Bubba too.
but no, the young hot blonde scientist.
The one who's trying to recreate the experiment.
Yeah, she steals the show in a lot of fun scenes and gutsy scenes. You see her all tricked out in her BDSM gear.
You also see her torn nightgown.
Yeah.
And all the wonders underneath.
And then a perfect end to the movie.
Yeah.
Won't say too much about that because hopefully.
But it's the greatest crazy laugh I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, it's better than the Raimi style one. I was telling you about that, where Sam Raimi has this fixation with people laughing maniacally, but there's no emotion in that. In this movie, the laugh in a short 4-second span shows all sorts of emotion all at once.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect way to cap it off because that's what Lovecraft should do.
It's a complete story of madness.
Yeah,
Madness. It's filmed so well. He had so many good actors. Everything's... Yeah, it might seem campy, but it's believably campy in my mind. There's enough science and there's enough good effects that you got a real hidden gem here.
Yeah, and hopefully it's one that a lot of our fans can put on their shelves or enjoy through the month of October.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely coming back to this one.
Yeah.
I think this is a keeper. So, anyhow, Jeffrey Combs, we're coming for you. So get ready for madness.